What you are hearing is the theme song for Wave Your Grades. I'll turn the music down and Reverend Shelton and Lee try to remember the song for Wave Your Grades. All of the words. I'll turn the music down and Reverend Shelton and Lee try to remember the song for Wave Your Grades. All of the words. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. I said, in this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. You make this parade a mere charade. If you're marching just for fun, our troops must feel your thanks for real before the marching is done. They know side by side you can match their stride to the drum beat and the brass, but they're not impressed with you unless you can match their stride in class. This may not sound too diplomatic, but I cannot be more emphatic when I tell you it's problematic when you do less than your best, especially when it's because you put your brilliance on pause for the mere peer applause it draws from a so-called friend doing less. Quit playing. I'm saying, we know that you are great, and you know it, so show it. Don't make our heroes wait. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Now, for those of you who already do the things that make us proud, your nation in appreciation says thanks to you out loud. Your schoolmates should imitate the way you tap your potential. Let me try to convince them why their effort is essential. Our men and women in uniform before, during, and after Desert Storm always perform above the norm everywhere and anywhere on the planet. Your peers should follow our heroes' lead, but they cannot follow it, they cannot read. Allow me, please, to plant this seed. Don't take freedom for granted. I'm serious. I'm furious to see U.S. schools behind. No excuses. All we got to do is just make up our minds. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. We believe in you, warriors. Protect you too. Do what you must to rise. So please do your part and please start before another warrior dies. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. They sacrifice for you. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Please. This is Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org. Wave Your Grades dedicated to our veterans and troops, and also dedicated to American students. This is the first of our second Saturday programs. These programs, again, in honor of those who have made sacrifices, are focused on anti-violence in our community, led by our very special guest this afternoon, Reverend Antoine Lee and the Covenant Man program, and representing veterans and the faith community, Reverend Thomas Shelton. Now, Brother Louis George Walker, producer, manager, co-host, founder of KUAW.org. After that lengthy introduction, let me ask Reverend Antoine Lee, please introduce yourself.
All right, my name, birth name is Antoine Lee, praise God, given to me by my lovely mother.
Yes.
But my title is pastor of Central Christian Church here in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm also service chair over the Historic East Neighborhood Coalition. And I was just given a governor's appointment to be a commissioner for the Missouri Public Charter School Commission. Wow. And more than that and above that, I'm a father. You know, I'm a father of 2 teenage boys and 1 teenage girl. And I just, you know, I know that I am, according to my faith, not to be afraid. But when I think about every time my children leave the house, and I look at what's happening to our young people today and how they're being literally just cut down by violence in our community, the flesh, the human man in me worries about my children. And I worry about the children of my community. So above all those things, I'm a dad. I'm a concerned citizen. You know, I'm a man, you know, and what I like is to not have to be as worried and nervous about whether or not my children are going to come home. And I think I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of us share in that type of attitude.
Praise God. Thank you so very much. And Reverend Thomas Shelton, as I ask that you do similarly, let me make the disclaimer each week that I am a civilian. And we all owe a debt of gratitude for those who serve, for those who have served. Here is Reverend Thomas Shelton.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. I have so many titles and stuff that it just, I've done so much in these years. But let me briefly go by him. I'm Thomas Shelton. I'm the pastor of the Lighthouse Missionary Baptist Church here in Kansas City, Missouri. Proud graduate of Kansas City Southeast High School. And I have served in the military, Air Force for 21 years. I was a police officer for about 12 years. I became a teacher, taught for another 32 years, or 30 years, I'm sorry. And I've taught, coached, mentored, done about everything you can ask to do in this community. And I'm currently a member of the Concerned Clergy of Kansas City, where I serve as the co-chair of the Crime and Violence Task Force. And from there, we work with a number of other different groups in the community. So as you can see, I spent my entire life working for this community of Kansas City, Missouri that I love so much.
Outstanding.
Opportunity.
Will you please repeat the high school from which you graduated?
Southeast, class of 1970.
I see. And Reverend Lee, from what school did you graduate?
The only school, Southwest.
but let me be quick to tell Reverend Shelton that he did attend Southeast junior high.
I did.
So there.
Actually, Brother Lee, and I didn't mention this, but I have 3 kids. My oldest son graduated from Southwest in '89.
Wow.
He actually played football and scored the winning touchdown.
I rest my case. We all want better. We all want better for our kids, don't we?
Well, let me indicate to you, as a matter of fact, that as delightful as it is and as much fun as we have with it, the crux of this program, and Reverend Lee's calling attention to it so that we have this opportunity today, is indeed love for our children, love for the children. So as we return to a more sober note, as it is now, by the way, I graduated from Lindblom High School, south side of Chicago, 1959. So there you are. But it is interesting to me, getting ready to celebrate 80 years, March 3rd, that we are in the throes of a climate that we never thought we would see again, but we never thought we would see this intensity. So Reverend Lee, if you would get us started with the covenant program, what that is all about, and of course, how we can be a part of it.
Yeah, you know, this is a very unique initiative in the sense that my desire was not to start another organization. We have a multitude of organizations doing plenty of great work as it relates to promoting family and strengthening communities. And the last thing I thought we needed was to start another one. What I'm trying to do with the Covenant Man is trying to get all of the organizations that have a stake in improving our communities as it relates to reducing crime to begin to work together under one covenant. And that covenant begins with men, because I come from the school of thought that when men come together, men can transform the condition of a community, because we know that when men commit themselves to a covenant, they stick to it, contrary to popular belief. You know, a lot of people say men don't keep their word. No, those are not men. Those are people that are impersonating men. People that may have, you know, male attributes, but not men. We know that when men commit to something, that's why it's so hard to get men to commit, because once a man gives you his word, then that man is convicted to follow through with that word. And so there are a multitude of agencies. There's the child support agencies. There's the total man organizations. There's the urban fathering organizations. There are men's ministries throughout the churches within the city. And all of them are saying the same thing. How did we lose our community to gun violence? Why are our children being cut down to gun violence? And everybody wants to do something about it, but everybody's working in their own silos. But what if we could come together, male ministries and after school programs, mentoring programs, child support, supportive services for men that are trying to do right by their families, and all fall up under one covenant. And that covenant will include a multitude of things, all geared toward recommitting ourselves to safe neighborhoods, which begins with having conversations about recommitting ourselves to our families and to our children and to our community. And so what I've been engaged in is I've had a multitude of meetings, and what I've been doing is calling organizations to the table to talk about how can we collectively bring men together to share under one covenant. And that's where we get Covenant Man.
Outstanding. And let me ask Reverend Shelton, you have a unique perspective, not because each organization or each opportunity is unique, but the collection, having been an officer, having been an educator, having served in the military, concerned clergy, there are a number of things that this one person, Reverend Lee, brings together as the gentleman with us this afternoon. How does this, Reverend Shelton, juxtapose itself with nonviolence from your several perspectives?
Wow. This whole thing about violence, let me say this, that I don't believe, and I think Pastor Lee said it earlier, he was concerned about his children leaving out, going into community. All of us are somewhat concerned about our kids, or should be concerned about our kids, if we in fact love them, as the Bible tells us we should, and we should love our neighbors. We should not just be concerned about our kids, but we should be concerned about all kids. That's what I believe brought me to this whole situation of being an educator and working with the kids. I've always been involved with young people, coaching, teaching, some aspect. I just went into education, and that just expanded and broadened what I. Most vets are of that nature of wanting to help in some sense. Okay, they want to get out there. They want to improve themselves. They want to improve their families. They want to improve, and by that, they improve the community. Most of us want to do something. We just have to find out where we fit in and then step up and do it. Pastor Lee has already brought out, there are numerous organizations in our community. You just have to find the right one and step out and say, okay, this is where the Lord is leading me to volunteer and to do. In my role with Concerned Clergy, we work with a number of these organizations, some I had never heard of until I got involved in this. And they're doing the same thing. They may be doing it over here. Somebody else may be doing it over here. And each one of them are small entities. But all together, they can make a significant difference. And so we have to all continue, not put down somebody else's organization, but to work together so that we can affect our whole community. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Yes, indeed. And what I would want both of you to do at this time, and Brother Walker to do before he has to multitask this afternoon, is give contact information. And Brother Walker, you might want to do this first. You only have a few minutes before you will have to leave us and come back. All of the information. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Pastor Shelton, you and I are so happy that some of us stay young. We're still telling people what black and white TV channel to use. And we are old enough, Pastor Lee, to remember when you call somebody, you didn't have to ask where they were. If they answered the phone, they were at home. So it is that it really greets us with a great deal of pleasure to be a part of KUAW.org. Thank you so much, Louis George Walker. And those of you who are with us will see him depart, but he is still here again, remotely in touch with the program. So thank you so very, very much for that. Pastor Lee, in terms of those who would like to become a part, and it is so appreciated that what you and Pastor Shelton are talking about is bringing organizations already in existence together. So talk to us a little bit about how we can enhance what you're doing.
So, what I like for everybody that's listening to do, and you can email me. It's not, my email is public. Can I put that in the chat? I can put it in the chat, but it's Antoine Lee at centralchristiankcmo.org. And I'll just type that in the chat here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that, those that are listening or not, but it's Antoine Lee at centralchristiankcmo.org, and just simply say, hey, just put it in the subject area, covenant man, and just let us know that you're interested in participating and you want more information about it. And I'll add you to the distribution list. And like I said before, this is a grassroots, a very organic approach to doing this, because like I said before, I don't have a single desire in the world to start another organization. I do not. I am overwhelmed with the responsibilities that I already have. I think what we need to do, though, is we need to respond to the situation we find ourselves in as the murder rate increases in our city, and as the age of those who are being gunned down decreases in our city. And I'll be totally transparent. I am still grappling with and dealing with having to eulogize a 17-year-old that was gunned down on Van Bryant at BP. And his mother learned of his death because somebody filmed him face down in the puddle of blood on Facebook. The trauma that this city has gone through, the hurt that this city is feeling, and it has been happening over the course of many years. Can you imagine all of the grieving that have broken families over it? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, wait a minute. Let's get in covenant with one another. And let me give you an example. And Dr. Board, I know you got to move, but let me give you an example of what I'm talking about in terms.
Please.
Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about in terms of covenant man. Say, covenant man, what are you talking about? Covenant man, covenant. There are some ways that we know as men, especially those of us who have raised families and have gone through all of the stuff that we have to matriculate through in high school. We've gone through gang. We've had to matriculate through gang, temptations and affiliations. We've had to watch our friends, some of them who was involved in illegal activity, go to jail. And we're still here. We still have children. We've survived that. And so we've learned over the years what we can do to avoid dangerous situations and how to de-escalate violence. Let me give you an example. Kevin Brown, which is one of my ambassadors that's a part of this program, tells his testimony, and I love his testimony because it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He was in the Gates barbecue line, and he was getting his barbecue, and there was a gentleman that was standing in line, and he dropped a $20 bill out of his pocket. Well, the gentleman behind him took his foot and placed it over his $20 bill, and the guy saw him do it. And the guy said, "Excuse me, brother, that's my $20 bill." And the guy who put his foot over the $20 bill says, "No, it's not. Take it from me." And the guy said, "You know what? You keep your foot on that $20 bill. You keep your foot right there. Don't move. I'll be right back." He goes out to his car and opens up the trunk and pulls out a gun, walks back in the Gates barbecue. And Kevin Brown says, there was another gentleman there that says, "Hey, brother, wait a minute. Before you do anything rash, let me just do this for you. How about this? Let me pay for your meal, and I'll give you $20 as long as you just leave. Matter of fact, leave, and we'll bring your meal here. I'll give you $20, and I'll pay for your meal. I'll bring your meal to you. Just leave." That's a prime example. The brother took his $20, took his meal, and he left. But how many lives did we save?
Without a doubt.
And this is the kind of mentality of a covenant man. A covenant man is a peacekeeper, an ambassador of peace. A covenant man comes into a situation, and because of their mere presence of keeping peace, they are there to de-escalate violence. And can you imagine having that in silos all over the city, because we've all come together and we've taken this oath, and we're accountable to one another.
Yes, sir.
In keeping this oath.
Yes,
and
sir.
Guess what? We can hold other men responsible and says, wait a minute, y'all had a concert down there. It was a lot of things going on down there. Wasn't anybody there other than the police and other than security that was available to de-escalate violence? Can you imagine that happening all over the country?
My Lord. And I saw Pastor Shelton shaking his head. Please come right in, Reverend Shelton.
I am so, I've heard that testimony, Pastor Lee. I think we were in a meeting and he gave that testimony. Let me say this, that recently I've been interacting with a young man who is a Christian counselor, and he was doing a series of workshops for us, for several of us ministers who were meeting. And the whole theme of the workshop, and I think, Brother Lee, this hits on what you were talking about. The whole theme of the workshop was, what does it mean to be a man? Okay, and he challenged us on our ideals about what exactly is a man. I think the biggest thing is that we believe that being a man is one thing, and the reality is it's not. And we have to understand that. And I don't think we do. And I don't think that, as he brought out, that we've been taught how to be a man. And the reason why we got it wrong is because the people that we were learning from had it wrong. Okay? So in order to rectify all of this violence and everything, or at least to calm it down, there's a couple of things. One, we've got to learn how to de-escalate, okay? But that takes a willingness to say, hold on, I'm gonna pause here, and I have other options. Too many times, the only other option that the young person is thinking about, or anybody is thinking about, is the violence option. And we've got to give them other options. I think, Carl, you did a workshop one time years ago, and you said we have to put more tools in the toolbox. And that's what we have to do with these young people. One thing I would say to you, Dr. Lee, is that we need more young men, okay, involved in these types of activities. Why? Because it's young people. It's not people, Carl, in my age, and I don't know how old Dr. Walker is. It's not people our age that's out there doing all of this street violence. We do some of it, but it's not as much. It's those young people, generally 40 years and younger, who are out there doing their violence. Those are the ones that we need to be talking to. We need to be instructing them, brothers, what it really means to be a man, okay, from a Christian perspective. And we need to be able to give them additional tools on how to handle stuff. The police, let me be honest with you, the police's idea about handling a situation is usually the most violent way of handling the situation. Very few of the officers are trained with extensive training on how to de-escalate a situation.
Praise God.
You have to have the patience and the desire to want to de-escalate a situation. You have to be gutsy enough to stand there with that person with the knife in their hand. And I've had that happen as a police officer. That person had a knife in their hand, standing across the room, threatening everybody in the room. And I'm standing there talking to this young man. I talked to him for over 2 hours, okay? Because he was so upset. And we ended up settling it without anybody getting hurt.
Praise God.
Without anybody getting shot.
Yes, sir.
And so, having said that, let me say this. Unfortunately, there are situations that we come up on, okay? Let's just be honest here, that we come up on that are violent situations, and the only outcome that's gonna come from that is something bad, okay?
Yeah, we have to reverse the language. I think we got to a point now. It used to be, and Dr. Boyd first of all, for y'all don't know the history that we have, the reason why I'm his twin, I even took his goatee, his bald head goatee look. It's not, I did it because I wanted to look like him. I could grow hair. No, I really can't.
Yeah, right.
But he mentored me. He mentored me in high school, and I went on to college, and he always has served as a mentor to me. And he used to teach us, and this is crazy. I want you to hear this now that you're approaching 80 years old.
Watch out.
Dr. Boyd taught us, I'm gonna show you where ain't no punks. And everybody in here is a gangster. And I know where all the gangsters live. He used to say that all the time. All of them live in the cemetery. And look at this gangster. And on his tombstone is, my name is John Doe and I wasn't no punk, right? And so coming out of Chicago, and I believe in Chicago, Dr. Boyd, 800 was gunned down last year.
Yes, sir.
800 was gunned down in Chicago. So what I'm getting at is, it used to be a time where when you shot somebody, you was a punk.
Now, thank you so very much. And let me do this right quick. Let me remind those who are with us. This is Wave Your Grades every Saturday from 1 until 2 p.m. KUAW.org. KUAW, founded by Louis George Walker, stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. Our program is dedicated to veterans and troops, and for serious American students. We have the very special privilege on now, because indeed of the recommendation of Reverend Antoine Lee, a focus on anti-violence. So our very special guests today, Reverend Thomas Shelton, Lighthouse Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Antoine Lee, Central Christian Church. Reverend Lee, please go continue.
Yeah, there used to be a time where if you had to resort to a gun, the community the outcry was, you're a punk. Because a man doesn't have to resort to killing. We settled our business with knuckles or whatever. Probably wasn't the best thing, but nobody got killed. We lived. We live. And so I think the language now has to become for our young people, as you said it so eloquently, Reverend Shelton, is that the psychology of what a man looks like has shifted. And it has to shift back to, we're not telling you that you have to be a punk. We're not telling you that you have to be less than or weak or anything like that. What we're trying to tell you is that if violence is the only way you solve problems, that is a sign of a weak mind.
Now, let me ask each of you to respond to one question for each. And by the way, I would love to talk about experiences in Chicago to validate precisely what Reverend Lee just said. As a matter of fact, to play softball in Stateway Gardens, my softball teams, who did have a claim, but I wouldn't let them use it when they were playing ball. But if we needed to collect the weapons, we would simply collect the weapons. And Reverend Lee, you are so right. We put boxing gloves on some brothers who wanted to shoot each other. And when it was over, they walked out friends. But this is the perspective please bring to dispel some myths. One, Reverend Shelton, there are those who think that if you have been or are in the military, that violence is what you are about. And then Reverend Lee, and both of you can address this too, there are people who say, why aren't Black people dealing with Black people killing Black people, as if these efforts have never been made before? We need to dispel some myths, and please come at it from your perspective. Reverend Shelton first. You are military. Your son is military. Does that mean you're all about war?
As a matter of fact, no, it doesn't. Most veterans will probably tell you there's only probably a small percent, probably 10%, who actually are those that we call super soldiers, if you would. They want to go to a combat situation all the time. 90% of them want to go in, do their time, do their service to the country or what for the country or whatever, and then come back home and live their life. It's almost like in the Black community, for instance, it was almost like that was the one way that we could get out of a poor situation and move up into middle class, because we had no other option. Now, the reason why I say we had no other option is because a very few of us were going to go to college. Let's face that reality and move up that way. The majority of the folks were going to leave high school and go to work. It's the same thing today. And the way to move up quickly financially is when you come from a home where, whether it's in the inner city, whether it's in the country somewhere where y'all dirt poor, okay, or close to it, the best way to get a steady income, a place to live, some clothes and some food every day is the military. And once you get there and you realize that, now I got a chance to get promoted. Why? Because the promotion is not necessarily based on my race, it's based on my ability. And that's the one thing that you may not have in the civilian life. So I go in the military and I get promoted ahead of my peers because of my abilities, okay?
Yes, sir.
And so that's the reason why you see a lot of guys go into the military and they go, they do their 2, 4 years, 6 years, whatever they're gonna do, and then they come out, but they have this thing, they know how to go to work and work on the job for 8 hours. They're not afraid of work. They wanna work. They just, sometimes when they come out, there's no jobs available, okay? But we have to remember also that many of these men and women who go into the military to come out, they have been trained to kill people. Let's keep that in mind. That's what they've been trained to do. And when you take somebody out of, let's say, you take somebody out of an Afghan situation or Vietnam, for my case, situation, and they spent the last year dodging bombs and bullets and knives and people who are dedicated to kill you, and you put them back into the community, sometimes they're still suffering from what we now call PTSD.
Yes, sir.
And so when that young neighborhood person comes along and he wants to man up by firing off his gun, it sets something off. It reminds them of this combat situation that they were in. And now you may have a shooting because now he has a flashback or she has a flashback that they did not intend to kill little Johnny or shoot little Johnny or little Mary, but because of their mental state, and this is not in every case, but look how we treat our military people when they come home. You just spent a year in Afghanistan. You just spent a year in Iraq, going house to house, scared to death somebody going to have a roadside bomb. When your time is up, that day your time is up, they take your gun from you, they take your knife from you, they take your grenade from you, they take your uniform from you, they put you on an airplane, send you back to the United States and tell you, okay, we're done with you. There is no sense, there is nothing that helps you transition from that situation to this civilian situation. That's where our government, in my opinion, that's where our government has failed us.
Now, this is so important, Reverend Lee, because you indicated that you are not about establishing a new organization to supersede others. Here is a gentleman with that background who is with Concerned Clergy. Now, think about what he offers. And we always said, even when you were with us at age 13, young people learn more by example than they do by instruction. So that when Reverend Lee has a Reverend Shelton on whom he can call to address certain audiences, that is a tremendous benefit. but I started out by saying I wanted you to address generalities. Somebody makes this generality. Black people are always talking about civil rights, but they're not doing anything about Black people killing Black people. Address that and help them to understand, please.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's a common and very shallow, quite frankly, response to Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter so much, then why are Black people still killing Black people? And you know what? We can go real deep. We could talk about what slavery has done to us as a people. We could talk about the psychological effect. I don't remember. I want to quote it right, but I think there's a point that was being made, and I forget the gentleman, this is not from me, but I know, you can research this, but they talked about how is it that you could take a people that you in bonded for 368 some years and expect them to psychologically recover in 40, 50 years. Think about that. So there's some residue. There's some things that we are still grappling with psychologically within the African-American community that was not our doing. And then also when you lock a people out of any type of economic progress and they have to resort to crime in order to feel as though that they can compete, in this capitalist competitive society, and we can deal with all of that. And that's really what's undergirding your question, Dr. Boyd, is people who are ignorant to the entire situation of the African American community. However, there's also something going on within the African American community that has to do with imagery and adoration and the glorification of violence and misogynistic language and images on television and in media. And so here's the thing. So here's what I found out. I found out that a male's brain does not mature until they've reached 25 years old.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Females is 22 years old.
Yes, sir.
So you take a young, impressionable male that has been inundated with imagery of success that looks like misogynistic language, fast money, and, and guns, then in an immature mind, and that's why you have 15, 16, 17 years old getting cut off because they don't recognize the present dangers around the lifestyle that they have. I had my son, and this is true, and it was true for me, I know it's true for him. He said, "Dad, I just thought that I was invincible for a while."
Yes, sir.
I just thought I was invincible. And in other words, I can do whatever I want to do to whom I want to do, however I want to do, and nothing was going to happen to me because they live in this world of fantasy that's being sold to them.
Now, you see, one of the things that makes me mindful of, I just mentioned it, I think Wanda and I were talking about it this morning, if not last night. If you look at the Car Shield commercial, and it features Ice-T. And if you look at what's going to happen at the Super Bowl tomorrow with Snoop, if you look at Ice Cube, he's a family man, even a comedian from time to time. Now, when Ice-T did Cop Killer, when these brothers were at 50 Cent is one of the most conservative performers out there now. But there were young people who believed what they were saying when they were very violent, projecting brothers. I am glad that they are who they are and doing what they are doing now. But our young people need to understand that entertainment is entertainment. And please go ahead, Reverend Shelton.
I'm sorry. Let me say it because Lee said, as Lee said about, he brought up about the media. Okay. The media is probably one of the most dangerous, or if not the dangerous situation that we have. Yet we all are captured by the media.
Yes.
The problem is the images, because like you just said, a lot of folk don't understand that, let's say Snoop wasn't really, well, he was a gangster back in the day, but he began to realize that the only way he was going to make big money was to transition out of that situation. So because his music was selling so well in a certain situation, now what you see is the media came in and they have helped him to change this whole marketing thing, help him to change his image, because that's why they put him with Martha, okay? Because Martha is wholesome white person. But when you look at the movies about Black people, every time we either got to be a thug, we got to be poor, we got to be something like it. It's never a teacher or you know, the preacher got to be an idiot or something like that. So this media thing is tearing us apart. We have got to teach our kids not to accept every image that shows up on TV.
Well, so the covenant man, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna let you finish your statement, but I want to get in there because I want to talk about. So the covenant man says, okay, I see how this is affecting my community. And as a covenant man, I'm no longer supporting it with my dollars. I'm no longer supporting it. In other words, I'm taking my family back. Now, wait a minute. That's great if Antoine does it. It's great if Antoine does it. Right. You know what, Dad? Let me go to my friend's house and I'm going to my buddy's house. Well, guess what? It's a covenant man over there too.
Now you're talking.
Now, guess what? Okay, we're going to go hang out at the basketball court. Well, guess what you're going to find at the basketball court? It's a covenant man there too.
Right. That's right. So
now the image of what we want to put in front of our children is being controlled and reinforced, because I don't want to grow up and be like Ice-T anymore. I want to be like KUAW. And what is successful is not about how much money I can make. What's successful is what contribution did I make to society, and did I make my mother and my father proud?
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about. The covenant man is not just about violence prevention and the covenant man says, hey, wait a minute. We have a problem in our community. Kids are cutting each other down because they have a misnomer and misconception about reality in the world and how to behave and act and live in the world. And we reinforcing that because when they come home, they don't see anything different than what they're seeing in the media. And so we have to make a choice and say, yeah, I love that, what's that show, that doggone, with the Keanu Reeves, that doggone, man, what's the name of that show where he killing all these people I'm talking about?
The Matrix?
No, he got another one out there. John Wick. John Wick. Come on, son, watch John Wick. But the covenant man says, wait, I may enjoy that, but I'm in the middle of a crisis. I'm going to sacrifice my entertainment so I can reduce the negative imagery so that I can change and reshape the mentality of my child, because it's contributing to death in my community.
Well, let me ask, please, Reverend Shelton, to respond.
Yeah. I like what you said, Pastor Lee.
Yes.
Let me give an example, because you're making an effect on the kids in your house, your sons and your daughters. Not just them. You'll be surprised how that spreads to their friends. Let me give you an example. My youngest son went to Lincoln, played football, ran track for Lincoln. They were going out. Him and the football team, him and his buddies, about 5 of them, were going out. One of them, his father happened to be a pastor also. And I know him, you might know him, Arthur Mobley. Okay, so Joe, Arthur's son, and Reggie, my son, are good friends. So they going out with their friends. So they get to this one place and this kid says, let's do this. And Joe says, I can't do that, y'all. He said, I can't do that because I got to go back and I got to answer the big Arthur. Reggie said, you? He said, I got to turn back and answer to Pastor Shelton. And they know each other, okay? What happened was it had a trickle down effect where it affected everybody. So all of them started hanging around with Reggie and Joe so that they wouldn't get in trouble, okay? What we have to continue to do is just what you're saying. Let us continue to teach our kids, continue to teach those kids in our churches. Again, I refer back to the what it means to be a man. Okay, we've got to get that understanding down. All right.
Wow.
And now it'll spread, and it starts spreading through the community, one young man, young woman at a time. My daughter, all right, she told me years ago, she said, I want a man like my daddy. And I said, well, whoever she date gonna be in trouble because if they don't meet the standard, right? Because you are setting the standard. I set the standard for what our kids are going to be like. And they keep that in mind. I did the same thing, KUAW, at school when I was teaching those kids. They weren't my biological kids, but they belonged to my family.
Believe that. Believe
okay?
that. Now,
and I treated them just like that.
Allow me to say this very quickly, that what you have just set up is precisely what is needed. Here is an example. I can say that Reverend Shelton and Reverend Lee, two examples, since children learn by example. Somebody says, yeah, I know those two brothers too, but no, not but. Yesterday, I was talking to Calvin Neal about some things that he had done in the heyday of ad hoc and a new heyday with Damon Daniels today. Oh, I also know a brother named Calvin Wainwright, and Calvin Wainwright was doing some stuff. Oh, by the way, in other words, the real salient point that's being made by Reverend Lee and Covenant Man is that indeed you are right. You go next door and here's a brother who's just like that. Let me tell you a very quick Calvin Neal story that really brings home the point from your perspectives, show you how tough this brother is. His son was with a set of brothers. They were talking. Calvin was getting ready to go away. He was giving him the keys to the house or something like that. And he called his son over and said, come here, in front of all his boys. He gave him a hug and said, son, I love you. And he walked away. His son kind of nodded, you know how young brothers will do. Later that night at the house, his son came home and he said, Dad, you know what happened to me? And Calvin said, no, son. He said, when you told me you loved me, when I walked back over, those brothers said, man, I wish I had a father who did that.
Yes.
I really appreciate your father. We must define love. So if Dr. King said there is eros love or romantic love, there is philia, there is family love, but agape love rules it all. And if you have the nerve to assert yourself where they're looking at it, somebody's son is going to say, Dad, I really appreciate you doing that. Gentlemen, your last words, I'm sorry for taking up all your time, but please, closing remarks from each.
Well, you know, I just hope that everybody listening here today would accept the personal challenge of reevaluating what part we play in the violence that has swept our communities. And if we can come together as men with all of our different efforts and all of the contributions that we're making all around the city and get up under one covenant, I just believe that we can make an impactful difference in terms of the violence that we're witnessing in our community. And so I encourage you and I challenge you. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm one man trying to deal with a whole lot of things. But if you could come on board and enhance anything that we're doing, Brother Shelton, Brother Boyd, Urban Father, all these different places, and just become a part. Let's get under one covenant. I've challenged KUAW Boyd, and I'm done, Mr. Boyd. I've challenged Dr. KUAW Boyd to give us the language of what the covenant looks like. And he's been petitioning the Lord and praying over that. And we have a mastermind, expert communicator over that. And I'm telling you, I know he's the man for the job, and he's going to give us the language. But let's commit ourselves to taking back our communities by standing up and being exemplary men for our young men and women.
Thank you so very much, Reverend Shelton, please.
Yes, I just want to say, yes, I agree with everything that Pastor Lee had said. Thank you, Dr. Boyd. We've been friends for a number of years now. I appreciate all your help and everything. I say to my veteran brothers and sisters, even my retired teacher brothers and sisters, and former police officer brothers and sisters, let's get into community and get to know the people in the community, not just from an official police stance, but let's get to know them personally. I think that by the veterans, most of us veterans went to serve our country, whether we were drafted or volunteered. This is still our country. And
yes, sir.
We have to do whatever we have to do to make this a better place, not just for our individual families, and let's stop being selfish, but for that family down the road, that family that God talks about, that homeless, that widow, that parentless child. We've got to be concerned about them. And once we understand who we are as men, okay, then we'll be better able to help somebody else. See, the sick can't help the sick, okay?
Yes, sir.
The sick can't help the sick. It's going to have to be, we have to get well before we can help somebody else.
Thank you so very, very much, Reverend Thomas Shelton, Reverend Antoine Lee. And Reverend Lee, the reason I didn't stop you when you were talking about my shaping language was because I would get this opportunity to say that rather than shaping the language, I am borrowing the language. So when I hear a conversation like this, I will play it back and borrow from you as I would borrow from Alvin Brooks, as I would borrow from those who are involved. And by the way, Reverend Shelton would not mind my offering the name of Cassandra Wainwright when we talk about concerned clergy, and Sister Jones, who is the head of the health department now. But there is an imperative that we do not shy away as men from leadership, even as we validate whomever is involved in the program. This is covenant man. And I will borrow from your language. We've come to the end of the hour, the end of the program. I pray that you will at some point come back. And let me tell you what we do on Wave Your Grades. I have a book, and it's called Morning Messages. It's 366 words, Reverend Shelton, in behalf of veterans to students. So for each program and for each day, I start with, to students across the USA, your Stoots for Boots message for this day. Now, this was already written. It's in the book, and it turns out that this is the language for today. And this is what I wrote, February 12th. Students, you are wanted by the police and by fire departments, law firms, technology companies, schools, colleges, hospitals, and media outlets. And your success is wanted by the servicemen and women who make it possible for you to become whatever you want. That is our morning message from Stoots for Boots for American students. Thank you, gentlemen. Please come back again. And Reverend Lee, we will be talking real soon and continuously. God bless you.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Gracious God and wonderful Wanda. I'm on my way home.